How women with a high level of spiritual development react to disrespect. The dangerous truth of Carl Jung. Imagine you are speaking, and your words seem to dissolve into thin air. You are interrupted mid-sentence. Your enthusiasm is met with a smirk. Your depth is called arrogance, and your sensitivity, weakness. They hint that you are too much. You think too much, you feel too much, you want too much. And in that moment, something clenches inside. A familiar, nasty feeling. Maybe they are right. Maybe I really should become simpler, quieter, smaller. What if this feeling is not your enemy, but your most faithful ally? What if it doesn't break you, but awakens you? For a woman walking the path of spirit, disrespect is not the end of the world. It is an alarm clock in a world that is trying to lull her to sleep with conventions. It is not a verdict. It is a mirror that someone has held up to your face, and in it, you see not only your essence but also their fear. Not an attack. It is an invitation into that very reality where you are the mistress, not a guest. Not humiliation. It is an initiation. A rite of passage you undergo to cast aside the last doubts about your right to be yourself. And today we will not talk about the worn-out mantras of love yourself. We will go deeper into that laboratory of the soul, where the pain of someone's neglect turns into the alchemical gold of your strength. We will figure out how an ordinary human resentment becomes fuel for your spiritual code. This is the dangerous truth of Carl Jung, which is silenced in popular forums. The truth that shatters rose-colored glasses and says, you can radiate kindness like the sun, and there will still be those who will want to make a candle out of you to burn. You can be light, and you will be called not of this world. You can be wise, and you will be accused of excessive complexity. You can be whole, and you will be considered inconvenient. But if you have begun the path to yourself, if you are no longer just a good girl, but a becoming personality, you fall out of their coordinate system. You are outside their game. You are playing your own. And your reaction to disrespect is no longer born from a spasm of fear, childish resentment, or a hungry need for recognition. It is born from a deep, cellular knowledge of your value. A knowledge that needs no proof, just as the law of gravity needs no proof. You no longer argue with other people's shadows. You simply turn on your light and illuminate the entire room. And yes, a spiritually developed woman is not an unfeeling monument. The pain of disrespect for her is real and sharp. She does not pretend that everything is love. She does not suppress emotions in a spiritual impulse. Instead, she does something revolutionary. She acknowledges the pain, giving it a name. Yes, this hurts. Yes, I feel my mouth go dry with anger. Yes, I feel ashamed and bitter. But here is the key. She does not merge with this pain. She does not become this pain. She is like the sky watching a thunderstorm. The storm rages, thunders, flashes, but the sky remains the sky. It is not destroyed by the weather. Pain is the weather of your soul, and your essence is the sky, eternal, calm, unchanging. This is conscious suffering, not drama, not hysteria, not freezing, but courageous witnessing. You allow yourself to feel the entire gamut of emotions, but do not lose your role dignity in the process, because dignity is not armor you put on. It is an inner core that you do not surrender under any circumstances, even when the world tries to break it. And this is where the magic begins. What happens is absolutely unexpected for those who try to humiliate you. You do not enter the battle. You do not start making excuses. You do not explain who you are and why you are worthy. Why? Because you begin to see. Disrespect is almost always a projection. It is someone's unintegrated shadow splashed onto you. When a person talks down to you, they do not see you. They see their own demons, the fear of being insignificant next to your scale, the terror of being vulnerable, which your presence exposes, the panic that their flimsy mask of the perfect person will crack from the purity of your gaze. And you stop taking it personally. You no longer ask the exhausting question, what is wrong with me? You ask a tool question. What does this show me about them? And, more importantly, which of my old wounds does this press on? Because yes, triggers are real. Disrespect hits exactly those places where you were once taught, sit quietly, smile, be convenient. But now you use this blow not to hurt yourself once again, but to finally heal this wound. You look at your reaction and think, aha, here it is, my childish belief that love must be earned through obedience. Here it is, my fear of being abandoned if I show my strength. And a choice arises before you, either to react from this wound, as you have done thousands of times, tears, aggression, attempts to please, or to use this moment to make the final stroke in its healing. This is the highest work with triggers, to see in them not enemies, but doors leading to your ultimate wholeness. And then a miracle of liberation happens. You stop needing to be understood and recognized. You no longer spend mental energy trying to explain to another what kind of person you are, because you already know this, and this knowledge is enough for you. Any explanations in such a situation are not strength. This is a leak of strength. When you start making excuses, you silently agree to the rules of the game. You are the judge, I am the defendant. I need to convince you of my innocence. A spiritually mature woman walks out of this court. She simply closes the file. She lets her presence speak for her. Her straight back, her calm, open gaze, her silence that hums like a taut string, her energy that fills the space without needing words. All this is the language of unconditional confidence, a language understood on an instinctual level, and people read it. Even if their consciousness rebels, their soul feels, this woman cannot be broken. She knows her worth, and this price is not up for discussion. True strength is not in a deafening explosion, not in a demonstration of muscles, not in an attempt to suppress. True strength is in restraint, in the ability to hold the storms inside without letting them destroy you from within, or spilling them onto others. Carl Jung called this the transcendent function, the amazing ability of the psyche to hold opposites without being torn apart, the pain of betrayal and peace of spirit, righteous anger and deep compassion for the tormentor, fragile vulnerability and steely steadfastness. It is in this tense holding that a new quality of being is born. Not a thoughtless reaction, but a conscious, measured response. You do not push anger deeper. You pass it through the prism of awareness and turn it into crystal clarity. You do not run from pain. You listen to it as to a compass pointing to your unhealed places, and then your boundaries cease to be barbed wire that you screamingly stretch around yourself. They rise naturally, like skin that feels the slightest touch, like an immune system that repels viruses without your command. Because your energy, your inner state, is primary. Words, explanations, quarrels are secondary. You do not shout, "Don't you dare treat me like that." You simply become psychologically invisible to those who see you only as an object for manipulation. Your inner shield rises by itself. And this is not selfishness. This is the highest responsibility for your inner world that Jung spoke about. It is impossible to carry light to others if your own fire has been trampled into the mud, and constantly tolerating disrespect under the mask of humility or magnanimity is the fastest way to trample your light. So you learn selective intimacy. You learn the art of noble distancing. No, you do not run from every conflict. Conflict can be honest and lead to growth. You distance yourself from a toxic, incompatible connection, one where your wholeness is perceived as a threat, and your light as a personal insult. And this is not weakness. This is the highest piloting on the path of individuation, because individuation is the path to becoming who you were born to be, shedding all foreign projections, expectations, and scripts. You no longer play the roles of savior, eternal victim, or convenient girl. You simply exist, fully, deeply, without looking back, and if someone's presence next to this just existing becomes impossible, you release this person not with pain but with quiet clarity. You preserve your energy, your strength, your focus, because you know for sure they are needed by the world for something greater than fighting someone's ignorance. You stop seeing disrespect as just negativity or evil. You begin to see in it the most important information for your ascent. Who is this person who speaks to me like this? What strings in me does it touch? Where am I still seeking external approval? In what situation do I still voluntarily shrink to avoid causing someone else's discomfort? And you turn pain into wisdom, not through forced think positive, but through deep, honest work with your own and others' shadows. You learn to unite in yourself seemingly irreconcilable opposites, iron strength, and tender softness, healthy authority over your own life, and tremulous vulnerability, the ability to defend yourself and the capacity to remain open to the world. And from this alchemical union is born that very psychological immunity, the gift of remaining yourself in any storm. You no longer react like a programmed automaton. You create a pause, a sacred space between the stimulus and your reaction. And in this pause, your freedom is born. Freedom to choose, freedom not to yield, freedom to remain yourself. This is the greatest gift of spiritual maturity, to cease being a hostage to your emotions and become their wise mistress and observer. You gather all parts of yourself, even those you hid in the closet, considering them bad or improper. Your furious anger, your healthy thirst for power and influence, your need for recognition and applause, your childish fear of being rejected if you seem imperfect, and when you stop running from yourself, you become practically unshakable. You learn to recognize others' projections at first glance. You are arrogant. Equals I cannot accept your inner wholeness because I have betrayed my own. You are cold equals you do not let me manipulate you through emotions, and this infuriates me. You are smart equals you make me feel stupid, and I do not like it. And you do not engage in this game. You do not prove that you are not a camel. You simply see these projections as you see the weather outside the window. Yes, it's raining their fears, but you are not getting wet from it. You maintain emotional boundaries, but at the same time, you do not turn into a cynic. You do not lose the ability to feel compassion. You simply understand. Their behavior is a cry of their unhealed pain, not the result of your mistakes. And your defense is born not from paranoia and fear, but from a big, adult love for yourself. And then the final, most important transformation occurs. You are finally freed from the narcotic thirst for recognition. You no longer feel the need to win an argument, prove you are right, make them respect you, because you have already come to the source. You have realized your value does not depend on external titles, approval, or admiration. It lives in a deep, inexhaustible source within, which Jung called the self, our true divine I. This is true sovereignty of the individual. Psychological independence. You cease to depend on the opinions of those who have not even bothered to look into their own soul. And this liberation is sweeter than any applause. Now your reaction to disrespect is light and unforced. You do not prepare for battle. You do not put on armor. You do not accumulate grievances. You simply see bad behavior as bad behavior and refuse to turn it into evidence of your inferiority. Your boundaries trigger automatically, without hysterics, without long conversations, without emotional hangovers. You begin to emanate a feeling not just of confidence, but of presence. Not pridefulness, not aggression, but a deep, unshakable calm of a person who has found peace within and no longer seeks it outside. And this presence works as a powerful magnet and filter. It attracts kindred spirits, those who seek sincerity and depth. It repels manipulators, narcissists, and energy vampires, for whom you become inedible. You become an island of stability in an ocean of chaos. You do not fix others. You, by your example, invite them to find their own center. You show without words. It is possible to live in this world with dignity, without sliding into aggression, without hiding behind defensive walls, without dissolving in self-sacrifice. And your strongest actions are soundless. Your daughter, looking at you, unconsciously absorbs, "My no requires no explanation. My body and soul are inviolable." Your friend, seeing your clarity, gains courage. "I am allowed to leave, even if it's scary, even if I'm used to it." Your colleague, observing you, begins to understand. It is possible to conduct affairs honestly and respectfully, even in this environment. You do not preach. You do not carry placards. You embody new rules of life simply by how you breathe, look, and walk. And this is the most powerful, quiet spiritual revolution, because the spiritual path is not a university diploma that you can get and hang on the wall. It is a practice, every day, like brushing your teeth, like morning exercises. Every act of disrespect is a simulator for your awareness. Every your reaction is a brick in the building of your new, free personality. You do not strive for an imposed, glossy perfection. You move towards your authentic, rough, alive wholeness. And even when you are hurt, you know the way home to yourself. You do not lose your center. You return to it through breath, through a minute of silence in the restroom, through trust in the signals of your body. Because Jung was right, the body is not just a shell, it is a conductor of the soul. And your bodily reactions, a lump in your throat, trembling in your knees, heat in your chest, are the wisdom of your entire being, screaming the truth to you, not a weakness to be suppressed. Disrespect becomes for you a key that opens the hidden rooms of your soul, but you emerge from them not with new wounds, but with new treasure maps. Because As you have learned, individuation is a sacred pilgrimage to oneself, not an escape from reality into esoteric clouds. You do not hide from the world. You appear to the world fully, uncensored, without attempts to fit in. And then the insult loses its poisonous power. It becomes raw material for inner alchemy. You accept it, not as a personal insult, but as material from which you can forge a new level of yourself. More whole, more free, more radiant. And here is the most important secret that changes everything. Culture, society, collective consciousness, they do not change through decrees from above. They change through living, breathing examples. Jung believed the great archetypes that rule us do not evolve by themselves. They evolve through specific human lives. Every woman who refuses to silently swallow humiliation. Everyone who defends her dignity without screaming and humiliating the other. Everyone who becomes a self. Not a faceless role in someone else's play. She rewrites the collective history of all women. She changes the field. She creates a new archetype of woman. Not a victim of circumstances. Not a savior losing herself. Not an unattainable ideal, but a whole, sovereign, full-fledged creator of her own reality. And this is true spiritual evolution, available here and now. Not as an unattainable theory from books, but as your real, only life. Therefore, the next time you encounter disrespect, remember, this is not the end. This is your call to awakening. Notice your first impulsive reaction and breathe. Practice the power of silence before saying anything. Take a step back, not in flight, but into the depth of your inner world. And remember the most important thing. The reward for not breaking will be freedom. The freedom to remain yourself in any, even the most toxic environment. The freedom not to depend on approval. The freedom to be. This is not pretty words. This is the essence of the Jungian path of individuation. And it is not intended for the chosen few. It is for every woman who hears this call inside. Because as long as at least one of us refuses to betray herself for cheap approval, as long as we hold this inner core, the fire of hope will not go out. And you, just reading these lines, you are already part of this fire. You are already part of this hope. You do not need to become someone else. You do not need to earn the right to be yourself. Just remain yourself, despite, in spite of, without looking back. This is already more than enough. You are already victory. This power is not for the chosen few. It is inherent in each of us. Do you want to learn how to activate it in practice? How to turn pain into fuel and disrespect into a springboard? Subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and watch this video first. We will go deep and analyze your next situation down to the bone, so that your reaction is not an impulse but a conscious force. I am waiting for you on the channel. It will be a revolution.